Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I will be showing you how I approach making drums to an entire song. Now, I already have a video on how I make my basic drum setup, so you can just search for how to make a basic drum program, basic drums in Superior Drummer, whatever. But I'm just going to show you how I do it. I have my own way of doing it and I've been doing it for a few years, so I think I'm getting pretty comfortable doing it. I always start out by having a clean MIDI track with just some hi-hats, and I'm also using my song The Last Stand. It's on my channel and iTunes, whatever. So what I do is I have binded this glue items within time selection to Control-Shift-G. That's just to make my workflow a little bit better, smoother, because I use that a lot. Now I have my exactly 4 counts of hi-hats here. So for making drums for this first part, I'm just gonna duplicate this so it fills up the entire part. Then I'm just gonna right click, make selection, and glue them together. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to kind of finalize this part and then duplicate it. So I think I'm just going to do that for this one. So bear with me, I'm just doing this as I work with it. So you're going to see the way that I work kind of in real time. Now for this first part, I want to have kind of like a blast beat part. So I always use my hi-hats as kind of a starting point and just copy them around, duplicate them, just to make sure that everything lines up, make sure that this one is set to straight. For some reason it always starts out being set to triplets, and that means that these lines are always on triplets, and that can kind of confuse you if you start duplicating what you think are regular notes and you end up with triplets. So make sure it's on straight. And the important hotkeys here are right click and hold to make a selection, and hold Control and left click and drag to copy, and Control C of course to undo. So let's listen to what this sounds like. That sounds like pretty much the pattern of the snare drums that I want. And then I'm gonna add in the kick drums, and I'm gonna go snare kick, snare kick, snare kick for this one. And I'm gonna remove the hi-hats just to make it a little bit clearer. That sounds pretty much right. So I'm gonna add in the hi-hats again. Might double up the hi-hats. And once I have these kind of like 2 and 4, 2 and 4 selected, I can drag down the velocity. That sounds about right. And then I'm gonna make sure that the blast beat doesn't sound that mechanic. So I'm gonna select my snare drums and hit H for humanize, and I'm gonna set the timing to 10%, velocity to 25%, and this just basically randomizes the velocity and timing of these notes. Sounds a little bit better. And now I have my basic blast beat for this part. Then I'm just gonna duplicate this, and let's hear. Now let's say you're in a band and you haven't produced all this music on your own. Let's say you're sharing the music credits with another guitarist, a bassist, a drummer, a vocalist, another producer, whatever. And you're going to distribute your music, and you're going to use DistroKid to easily distribute your music to all the big streaming services like iTunes, Spotify, Google Music, YouTube Music, whatever. DistroKid has what's called a automatic revenue split. It's basically that when you release your music, you can decide who gets what percentage of the music. You can have an unlimited amount of people receiving their own share of the income, and you can decide how many percent each person is going to get. You can also change this at any time. You can add or remove people, change how big of a cut they're getting, and it's a really nice way to ensure that people get their share and you avoid all the hassle with distributing your income through yourself after you've released the music. It's just one of the cool features that you get with DistroKid. It costs just 20 bucks a year. It's a great service. It's what I'm using, and it's what I will be continuing to use as long as the service is available. Now back to the video. So I'm pretty happy with the basic pattern, and now I'm just gonna select this and glue it. You can also right click, glue items, and then I'm gonna open it again. Now I have my whole pattern here, and I can hear that in the middle I want to kind of change the hi-hat to something else. So let's hear. Right there. I want to start hitting something other than the hi-hat. So I select all my hi-hats and I just drag them down until I hear something that I think fits. Then I want to go with this one. So let's hear. It almost kind of disappears, so. And I'm sorry about the kind of crackling in the sound. I haven't really fine-tuned all my settings enough, but it should work for now. That sounds about right. And then we have one of the final ingredients, which is some kind of cymbal hits spread around the track. And I usually start a drum beat with a couple of cymbals. Now if you wonder where the cymbals are, you're just going to have to get used to it. Hi-hat is usually on C4, kick drum is usually on C2, the snare drum is usually on just D2, I guess. And just in order to not make a 3-armed drummer monster, I'm going to remove this. Hotkey for this is to hold Alt to get the eraser tool and just click and drag the left mouse button. Using this you can erase whatever you want. So let's hear. And I can hear that I want another cymbal here. And I usually remove the hi-hat when I hit a cymbal, just to kind of, not only to make my drummer less of a machine, but also to kind of define the cymbal hit more. And I can also see here that my drummer actually has 3 arms because he's hitting the snare and 2 cymbals, so I can try removing the snare. I'm happy with that. So let's hear how this sounds. And what I do is I'll just listen through it, and whenever I feel that a cymbal hit sounds natural, I'll just pause it and insert a cymbal hit there. And here the track starts again. So I'm gonna do the same thing as in the start. Gonna do the same thing here. Insert another hit here. And when this part kind of ends, I want to have a small transition. I think I just want to go with some tom-toms. So I'm just going to remove everything here. And now we're at triplets again, so I want to change this to straight. And the length of this doesn't matter, it's a single hit no matter how long or short it is. So 2 toms there, 2 toms there, and then 4 snare hits. Let's hear. It's kind of a small transition. I want to remove that snare hit there and that cymbal hit. Sounds good. And then now we're going to kind of loosen up the tension, because blast beats create a lot of tension and you don't want to have too much tension going on all the time. So you want to kind of release the tension. Now, when you duplicate or copy around these drum tracks and you already have some kind of overlapping tracks that you've recorded, I have my lead guitar, my bass, and my 2 rhythm guitars. You want to make sure that your drum tracks line up with the actual bars here and not lining up with these things. Just make sure that you don't screw up the timing doing this. So now we're going to create a new track, and I want to go with some fast double pedals. It's going to sound kind of similar to the original song, but I'm kind of starting over again here. So I still have my 4 hi-hats. Copying those. Make sure that I'm on straight. You can use a scroll wheel. And I'm just going to make a faster beat here. I think I'm going to stick with this for now. And I'm going to put my snare hit on the 3rd beat here. And let's hear. Just going to copy that a couple of times just to get the feel of it. Yeah, I like that. So I'm just gonna duplicate that some more, make it fit the entire part, and then I will just select them all, glue them together, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time inserting cymbal hits, but I would do the same thing here. I would start off with a couple of cymbals just to kind of mark the start. So let's hear. And I will insert some more cymbal hits throughout the track, and I will end up with a new transition. And here we're gonna make a cool little transition. Make sure it's on straight. I'm sure there's a key to make it always start on straight, but I haven't found it yet. And let's try this. Yeah, sounds about right. And now I'm just going to copy this again. So you can see I'm always using this as a starting point. It's nice to start with a clean slate. Make sure that it lines up, zoom all the way in, so it doesn't snap to any of the other transitions. And here we have a little transition in the song. So I'm just going to glue these two together and delete half the hits. So let's start with a kick drum hit, and you can see I'm always maxing out the velocities. You can always go over and kind of randomize everything or make some hits a little softer, but I personally just don't have the time to spend 50 hours programming the velocities of every song. So I'm just gonna, I think I'm gonna make something more interesting here. try this. Let's try without the hi-hats. No, we'll include the hi-hats. Yeah, we're gonna stick with that. And then comes the next riff. So let's see, starting out with the clean slate again. And let's see what we want here. Again, gonna make sure that I'm straight. And I want to have my snare on the 2 and 4 now, like second beat, fourth beat. So let's hear. Sounds a little silly. Just wait. Or maybe we're gonna have on the first and third beat. Yeah, let's duplicate that. Yeah, that sounds a little different, but I like it. So now we're building some tension again, because this is kind of a weird drum beat. And we're going to release this tension here by going on a kind of ride groove. So let's see. I'm going to change the hi-hat to the ride. Or I guess it's the bell. And 2 spots behind below is the ride. So let's hear. I'm gonna reduce this velocity. Sounds good. Duplicate that, and I like to glue the parts just to make it more visible which is which. And I will go over this one, add some cymbals to the start, maybe a small transition here, and add some cymbals here. Let's see. And then I will, of course, make a new transition here. Can make a quick snare drum roll. And here we can use the triplets. Maybe a little fast, but let's say our drummer is just really good. We can always play with the velocities. You can use this bar below here. Click and hold the left mouse button and you can just kind of shave off the velocities. So I like to do it like this maybe. Sounds a little bit better. And now we're going to back to this intro part. And just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to copy this part. Paste it in here, make sure that it lines up, not with this, but with this. And let's hear. And this is kind of my workflow. I use a lot of copy paste, and I would go in and maybe just to make it not sound identical, I would take this part, I would select all the hi-hat hits, maybe go down to one of the cymbals. Just to change it up. And then we come to the next part. We can just use these 2 parts that we used in the previous one. And I would do the same thing to this, change it up a little bit, add some different transitions, change up this transition because it's the same transition that we have over here. And then we're coming over to the chorus. Let's take our clean slate, make sure that it lines up. Make sure we're on straight. And I want to go with kind of a 1 and 3 on the snare here as well. But I don't want to have this hi-hat going. I want to have this. I think this sounds good, so I'll just duplicate that a little bit, see how it sounds like. And just hear the difference between going like this and how much the snare changes the sound. Now the snare is on 1 and 3, 1 and 3, like 1, 2, 3, 1. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna change it up and put the snare over here, and we can always do this. But for this part, just gonna undo. I like this pattern better. And just to change things up a little bit more, you can always add some more snare hits. Make sure we're on straight. We can do this. But for now, I'm just going to stick with kind of a basic pattern. And when this one comes in, I want to change up the drums, because this harmony comes in and kind of marks the second part of the chorus. So a nice way to change things up is just change the cymbal to this China. And we have part 1 of the chorus, part 2 of the chorus, and then we have a transition again. Let's see if our old transition kind of does the trick here. Make sure it lines up. I want to have some more kick drums here. Let's see. I want to double up on the kick drums. No. And here we're going to go kick snare, kick snare, kick snare. So this next part. Let's see. Sounds about right, I think. But here we're gonna change things up with the snare a little bit. Let's try moving one of these hits over there, and we're gonna remove the kicks from the snare hits just to break up the kick rhythm a little bit. And we're gonna change this one up here, so we're gonna have a slightly different beat here. Oh, I didn't really like that. Let's try this. And we're gonna add in a second beat there. And let's spice this up. Sounds awesome. Let's hear how this sounds. Then we're back to this part again, which is the same as this. Just gonna copy my old ones, and I would go in, add some different cymbals, add some different transitions, maybe change up the beat on the hi-hats, move the hi-hats to a cymbal, whatever, just to change it up. And we're back to the chorus. Then we're gonna copy the chorus, and let's see here. We can see these transitions lining up differently all over the place, but you have to look at the top here that you match the lines here, and this should match here so the timing doesn't get screwed up. And you would do the same thing here, add some different cymbals, change up the groove a little bit just to not make a complete copy paste, but you use copy paste to save time and workflow. And then comes yeah, basically the same part here. So let's see. I'm gonna copy this part. Make sure it lines up. It does. And when this outro part comes, I had this on the clipboard, so I just press Control V when I want this clean slate. Let's try this. No. Let's try this instead. Sounds good. Let's hear. And here, when this is at the middle, starts again, I want to have a slightly different snare beat just to increase the intensity. So I'm just going to add a snare on the first beat. have the end. So we just mark all of this, add a kick, a couple of cymbals, remove the snare. And now you're pretty much done with your music. And when you go to the link below and sign up for DistroKid to distribute your music, there's a lot of different ways that DistroKid can pay you. They can pay you using a direct deposit to your bank account. You can get an e-check. You can get an e-check internationally. You can even be paid by check, just the real deal, like old school. You can be paid with PayPal, which is what I prefer. It's fast and it's cheap. You can get wire transfer, and you can get wire transfers all around the world. So basically you can be paid in pretty much any way you prefer using DistroKid. It's really simple, just costs 20 bucks a year, and it's what I use, and it's what I will continue to use as long as the offer is there.